Good evening. On behalf of the City Schools of Decatur Board of Education, thank you for joining us in person and virtually for our March 10th, 2026 board meeting. This week, Georgia is honoring the dedicated individuals who serve on local school boards across the state during School Board Appreciation Week. Appropriately timed for National Youth Art Month, I want to thank the students and staff again, particularly the 6th through 8th grade art, woodshop, and international perspective classes at Beacon Hill Middle School for honoring the board today. I also want to personally thank my fellow board members for your dedication to serving the stakeholders in City Schools of Decatur and your vital role in shaping the policies and priorities that directly impact students, educators, and families. Today's robust pre-work and work agendas reflect our ongoing commitment to achieving the goals of the 5-year All-Indicator Strategic Plan as we conclude the 3rd year of the plan. Each year, the Georgia School Board Association, GSBA, invites local school boards of education to propose changes to the current GSBA legislative positions, including any amendments, deletions, or additions. The board began pre-work with this discussion. Following this discussion, the board resumed our book study on modern-day strategies for community engagement, exemplifying the board's commitment to improving community engagement. We then affirmed the revised board and superintendent communication norms and working agreements. Pre-work concluded with 2 policies: an existing charter schools policy with guidelines for considering charter schools petitions, and a new parental involvement in education policy that aims to strengthen the partnership with parents and student success. There were several presentations during the work session. The first 2 presentations were related to the use of federal and state funding and special purpose local option sales tax, or SPLOST funds. As we conclude SPLOST 6, it is great to see that the 1 penny sales tax has funded for student success. Our next presentation was an update on the state of communications, including progress toward our district goals of building an engaging and inclusive culture, as well as key legislation to watch for the remainder of the 2026 Georgia legislative session. After the board voted to amend the agenda, moving the next presentation to the regular meeting, we heard an update on human resources, highlighting responses to staff climate surveys, employment contracts, staff retention efforts, and recruitment strategies, and initiatives to enhance teacher engagement. A representative from Georgia Piedmont College was present to provide key aspects of their partnership with CSD, which will include upcoming training opportunities for our certified staff. The final presentation from operations, which included a summary of risk hazard assessment of 525 West Avenue as a potential location for an early childhood learning center, as well as policies to be presented for first and second read, will be moved to later in the meeting's agenda. All Board of Education meeting presentations are available on the district's website and Assembly. Today, DeKalb County's new tax commissioner, the Honorable Nicole Golden, who provided an overview of the role and future plans for DeKalb County's tax commissioner's office. We congratulate Commissioner Golden on her recent appointment and thank her for taking the time to meet with us. Every month, the board looks forward to hearing about the wonderful learning experiences occurring within our schools and the achievement of our students and staff. Today, we recognize the Guardian Nomies at Glenwood and the DHS 2025-2026 Star Student and Teacher and the National Merit Finalist, as well as the DHS Wrestling and Swim teams. This month is also National Music in Our Schools Month, and with our spring just around the corner, our schools are full of activities. I encourage our families and the community to check newsletters and CSD Weekly to support our schools in upcoming events and activities. Before I end my remarks, I want to advise the public that we are mindful of the legacy connected to district property and individuals and families whose lives are interwoven with our schools. That legacy deserves acknowledgement and respect. As we advance the new ECLC project, honoring those contributions remains important. We are also aware that our responsibility as a Board of Education is to ensure that district-owned assets are utilized in accordance with governing statutes, board policy, and educational interests of our students. The deed governing the property at the corner of West Trinity and Electric Avenues designates it for educational purposes, and the ECLC fulfills that obligation while advancing the district's strategic goals. On October 14th, 2025, the Board of Education voted to approve an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Decatur Public Facilities Authority to advance financing for the Early Childhood Learning Center through issuance of revenue bonds. That action followed careful review, consultation with legal counsel, and alignment with our district's strategic priorities. Appropriate due diligence has been conducted to ensure compliance with legal counsel and to provide structured opportunities for public engagement. Developmental decisions of this scale require careful planning and accountability, and that discipline has guided each step of this process. Historic designation would not prevent the district from moving forward on this project. However, guided by placemaking and heritage design efforts developed in partnership with Goodwin Mills, Haywood, and Kennesaw State University, the design intentionally weaves the historic and cultural legacy of the Beacon Hill community into the facility's architectural and educational experience. We remain committed to adhering to all legal requirements and conducting appropriate due diligence as this project moves forward. I have a few dates that I want to bring to the public's attention. The next board community meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 25th, 2026, from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Oakhurst Elementary School. The next board meeting will be on Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. Finally, on behalf of the board, we wish everyone a safe and enjoyable spring break. That concludes my remarks for this evening. Student Representative Batra, I believe you have something to share with us.
Yeah, so a few days ago, I reached out to the board, responding to a moment where we're seeing, increased fear in our country, and, we've seen some student protests recently, and, I thought there are also some other districts like the CAB and Gwinnett that are releasing policies and statements surrounding that. And so, I figured that we as a board should respond to that moment, and reaffirm to our families and our students that we have their backs, that they shouldn't be afraid, and that we're going to protect them. So I was very surprised to see, or not very surprised, but I got connected with the legal team to draft a resolution from the board for the board's review. And I just want to say, a point of gratitude there because, it's so crazy to be a student representative in a district where, if I have a concern, I can not through middleman or anything, but be directly, moved into legal and be able to draft something like that. So I'm very thankful for that. And so I just wanted to update to the board that we're working on that resolution. We had originally intended it for this meeting, but you'll see the draft ahead of next April's board meeting, and I just wanted to open that.
Is there any chance it would be ready for the retreat?
I don't know off the top of my head when the retreat is, but that would be retreat.
Not a retreat. What am I saying? What are we doing? Oh, the community meeting. Yeah. So I'm losing my mind. This is what having an 8-hour-long meeting does to you. Okay. Yeah. So then it's not for the community meeting then. So it would be the next board.
I'm super excited to see the resolution. I've been raising this issue internally since January because we've been getting a lot of emails and questions from families with these same concerns, especially after the federal policy discouraging enforcement at schools was withdrawn. The law is clear. Law versus Doe guarantees every child the right to attend public school, and schools are not required to turn over students to immigration authorities without proper legal process, including a judicial warrant. So as a civil rights attorney and the daughter of an immigrant, this issue is deeply personal to me. Last year, my own son was told by peers at school that he should be deported. So I'm really encouraged to see that the board is working on a resolution to provide clear guidance to our families and staff.
I'll keep you updated.
Thank you.
Dr. Sultan, I want to reassure you that as directed by this Board of Education, we will continue to support our teachers and staff in implementing board policies and district regulations that reflect the Decatur community's values of inclusive and engaging learning environments that foster trust, understanding, and respect for all.
Board members, do you have any thoughts that you wish to share at this time?
Yes. So I believe in your chair's report, you were talking about honoring the contributions of people living in the community. I believe you also mentioned something about architectural inclusion, and I'd like to understand how that's happening. So when you were talking specifically about the ECLC, it kind of sounded like you were referencing things in that letter, and I'm just not well versed in what that honor looks like.
I don't know what letter you're referring to, but there's been no architectural plan. However, I think we as a board are committed to making sure that we are able to weave in the history of Beacon Hill into the building somehow. So there's a lot of different ways that we can do that.
Are we going to get, because, I mean, my recollection in this process was, I believe I asked to know for any building changes, and I think it was a paint at that point. But this, you just talked about architecture.
That doesn't mean the design itself. It could be a lot of different ways. You can put up, you can put up a tribute to the Beacon Hill elders on this side of the building.
So will we have a meeting or a presentation about this? Because that's what I'm confused by.
I'm sure that we can, definitely.
Okay, and that's scheduled for, I mean.
I think that's probably way down the line. We have to, I'm not the world expert on how you commission an artist or something like that. I personally also would love to see the Beacon Hill elders to have a significant input into how that's designed. I don't think that should totally be, this is just my personal opinion. I think they should have significant say into what that's like.
I agree, and I know there's also been issues or concerns raised from the public that this is also the Skokie land, too. We should honor that.
Absolutely.
Also.
Absolutely.
So
consider this like the infant kind of stages idea planning.
So what would that timeline plan look like? Because, I mean, based on some timelines that have already been presented, we're not talking 2 years out. So I'm just trying to get a handle on, we're saying this, right? The board is saying, we want to honor these contributions. The board is saying we're envisioning these things, but so we're advising again, or we're giving input, or because I asked about the ECLC last time. I specifically asked about the difference between operations and governance. And I believe where we landed last time was that effectively the board could give input. And so now I'm hearing the board wants to do this. So is that input? And then we wait to determine what happens?
Board Member Anderson, placemaking has been a part of what has been communicated by me going back as far as October. Placemaking is the way in which it's the architectural term for the way you integrate how you're going to honor. Specifically, we spoke about what Santa Rosa looks like and the way in which they honor that community. That goes back as far as October in writing as well as in presentation. So there are multiple ways, even in the naming of the building, because it hasn't been named as well. So there are a lot of ways that this building can include placemaking in the future.
I'm sorry. However, I was being very clear from my comments that that's the board's goal for folks in the community who have concern about this particular land, that our goal is to include all of the members of the community, including the Beacon Hill elders, and to make sure that their voices are not lost, their history is not lost, their legacy is not lost. And there's a myriad of ways that we can do that as a governance team.
So then I think it's reasonable for us to say we would like at the next board meeting or after, depending on the timing that the administration gives us. But we would like a plan and a view into exactly how that timelines, realizing that it's not fully planned yet, but what those timelines might look like and how that process is going to be managed. Right, I think it's reasonable for us to ask that.
I'm a little confused. We have been reading modern day strategies for community engagement, and I'm hearing that now we would like, kind of a readout on this. Are we actually involving the community in any way in this process?
This is literally what we just talked about.
Okay, so we're going to get a plan that will, what are we asking for?
How we're going to engage the community, the timelines that some of the decisions will be made, these sorts of things.
I think we're putting out a request for proposals is what I read in one of our packets, is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, I think history is important. The lobby to this building is in many ways a little museum to Miss Wilson and Beacon Hill. I know when my own daughter visited over the summer, and it was actually right after you were hired, Dr. Whitaker, and she just sat there and read it like we were in the museum. I think that's something that operationally can be done. I think as a board, we will be involved in the name and choosing the name. I think we can provide input on, how is the green space, that is part of that. It's left over, how is that used, how's that historically involved with Decatur Day and other stuff like that. I just heard from the comments that there's no member of the board that doesn't think that shouldn't be part of what we do. And to me, that draws it in stark contrast to, for example, the soccer field, which was also on all of this land that was built over there. There is no historical marker, there's no comment, and so I'd be even go so far as if you're just asking my opinion as a board member, I would love to see, some scholarships or some historical money pulled together for descendants of Beacon Hill, or maybe people who still live in the community, to make sure that they always have a space in that particular building. I think there's a lot that we can do, that we will do. We just don't have a timeline for it yet. We haven't broken ground on it yet.
I think before we get into the details of the process, I think it's important to say here today that we're committed to making sure that those folks are included. The Beacon Hill elders, they are an important part of the community. The community has voices. It's important to name them. So I think it's important to say that at this point, that we want them included in this process. I think that's what we said.
Because I don't think we've talked about this then, my recollection is when we were at Beacon Middle School in September for our second community engagement meeting, we heard from a lot of community members about this issue. So is there anything that the school district has done between September and what we're saying now to include people? Because that was the concern that I heard in September over and over at Beacon Middle School during our community meeting.
I mean, we haven't even broken ground yet, right? I mean, so that.
I think if the question is, I think there's been multiple conversations, or I think we've tried hard to make sure that to untangle a couple of issues, namely the school system's role in Decatur Day. I think as you know, we have tried to untangle some of those things in the school system's role in that. I think where we stand now here is what the school board can do, or what the school system or the district can do to include that vital part of the community in this project going forward. I think that is where we are now, and I think that is what my comments are trying to get at. Their history is important. The history of that land is important. So is the history of a lot of the other parts of Decatur, not just that. I think if you're going to talk about that little piece of land, we also have to talk about all the other parts of Decatur that are meaningful. But all of that notwithstanding, the point is to make sure that they realize that we want their input, and that that the history of this part of Decatur will not go lost. Did that answer your question?
I think so.
Any other thoughts?